that's a fairly significant change in you know, how we provide those services. We are also proposing for the people that are in Catamount coming into VHAP, that the deductible rise from $500 to $1,200. And you know, just so you know, I mean, I don't know. Sometimes you know, the governor accuses me of getting into too much detail on these things, but right now, if you're in VHAP, there is no deductible. In Catamount, there's a $500 deductible. When we move everybody into VHAP, you know, there are actually less co-pays and so forth in Catamount. So when you're moving people into VHAP, unless there's some recognition here that these are the people that, on a relative basis, between 185 and 300% of poverty. So they're not at the lowest income spectrum here. That you know, if they were in one big pool, you would be treating people at the lowest income level the same as the ones that are 290% of poverty. And we felt that it was appropriate, since we're moving this population into VHAP and they will no longer have co-pays, that we increase their deductible from $500 to $1,200. Most people that are out in the world these days, I think would find that $1,200 is not an abnormal level for your deductible. So I think highlighting that structural change there is important, as it's consistent. Not only does it save us money, but it's consistent with the direction we're trying to move.
So VHAP would stay with no deductible then, if you're in VHAP already?
Yeah. If you're in VHAP, yeah.
So does that mean
the biggest change there that Catamount now is administered either through Blue Cross or NHE? People who sign up have an opportunity for either of those plans, and now that option is gone because under VHAP it will be a state-administered program. Do I have that right?
Well, it's more than administered by MVP and Blue Cross now. They are private insurance products that the state subsidizes. So this is moving that population into VHAP, which is a state program, state-run, state-administered. It's going to run through the Department of Vermont Health Access, the way existing Medicaid does, and they're essentially an insurance company.
so they won't be in? So what used to be Oval will now be the insurance.
We call it DIVA now.
Right. Will now be the insurance provider for all of those products, or for all this insurance.
For all that population.
That means Blue Cross MVP will not be offering.
That's correct.
These on the market. You're taking those off the market and rolling them into.
What's the time frame?
Were they not contracting in the state to do that? Like, is there an end of a contract? They just will not be re-upped?
Well,
Typically, usually, the state has in most of its contracts, and Susan can weigh in, a provision to opt out within like a reasonable period of time, 2 months.
Is this an acknowledgement that Catamount really hasn't worked?
I think this is part of the governor's effort to move us towards a single-payer system. This is Catamount was set up as a private insurance package. That was part of the negotiations that led to Catamount a few years ago. Governor Shumlin would prefer having that population in a public program.
And how many folks would be in that pool if this was to happen today? How many are you looking at?
I think it's around 9,000 or 10,000 right now we're covered by.
I thought it was.
So let's make a note on the ones we need to get an answer for.
There was somebody signed up
12,000?
We increased the number of insured.
How many total, Matt, or 12,000 from Catamount into VHAP?
12,000. There's 12,000 Catamount participants now.
Okay.
What's the time frame for the shift?
I believe it's October 1st.
So the rates won't change.
Well, let's be clear about this. I mean, first of all, the governor's budget, I think, Doug, is as you pointed out to me, acknowledges that the cost of health care is something that we can no longer ignore. And we save $5 million in VHAP for a couple of reasons, but the primary reason is that providers are reimbursed at the Medicaid rate in VHAP, and they are reimbursed at Medicare plus 10 in Catamount. So, you know, the providers would be having a less attractive reimbursement. Is that a fair way to?
That's fair, and there's also would be reduced administrative costs. The state can administer VHAP at a lower cost than Blue Cross and MVP can administer Catamount.
So what do you say to those providers who say, here you go again, you know, you got budget pressures and you're deciding to make a significant drop in the reimbursement rate to healthcare providers for the 10 or 12,000 people in Catamount? You're asking the healthcare community, the healthcare providers, to balance, part of this budget is being balanced on their back.
It's an acknowledgement, as I believe the governor has said, is that healthcare costs are going up at unsustainable rates. We cannot continue business as usual in healthcare. So yes, the providers are going to be taking a hit in this budget. The governor met with the hospitals and let them know what was coming. There are other places where the hospitals are going to be receiving less money from the state. Where healthcare costs going up at 6% a year across providers and medical services and medical products simply is not sustainable. The state cannot afford to pay for it. So yes, if there's going to be some short-term pain here, but the purpose of this is to get through this very tough budget time and move forward in healthcare reform. And we hope that those providers who are going to take the hits here will see where we're headed with this, and that it is very possible to bring costs out of this system and reimburse providers at an acceptable rate for them. But we need healthcare reform to accomplish that.
And Doug, I'm gonna flip this right back to you for a little further expansion. But I want to first say, you know, we are presenting a budget today on January 25th. We are comfortable presenting a budget on January 25th. We are not saying this is a masterpiece that can't be improved along the way. This is the beginning of the first leg of the process. And Doug Racine has, formally been on the job for a few weeks now. And it's a huge agency with over 3,000 employees, is that right?
3,100.
And the governor has asked his agency secretaries, and the Douglas administration was very gracious, and the commissioners and secretaries did their best to provide a budget that they thought that the new governor would be comfortable with, given the parameters of what we're dealing with here. And so I appreciate what they did. But our secretaries and commissioners have not been on the job very long, so the governor is saying to them, look, if you can continue to, get into the nitty-gritty here and look for alternatives, we're willing to consider those and bring them to the legislature. Furthermore, if the legislature has alternatives that can get us to a balanced budget, we are willing to listen to those as well. So it's not like we're saying that it's our way or the highway here. We're saying this is the end of the first leg and we're moving forward. Now, as I flip it back to Doug, Bob, I wanted to just point out that this is not the only contribution we are seeking from the providers. There are several pieces in this budget proposal that require additional heavy lifting by the provider community. And I'll hit them, and then I'll let you sort of take it from there. But just so I can do it in a real layman's language, because that's what I am here. But we are expanding the current provider assessment for hospitals and nursing homes. The additional increment of that for the hospitals, and you know how this basically works. They pay an assessment. We spend the money. We draw down federal Medicaid. We, as a group, try to hold them harmless for that assessment level. It works better for some hospitals than other hospitals. Some come out winners, some don't come out winners. But on the whole, you're trying to hold them level. With the increased hospital assessment, this year we're saying we are not going to return the leveraged federal money to you. But we are doing everything we can. What we're looking to try to do is to say, on an ongoing basis, we don't want to leave any federal dollars on the table. And this is an imaginative funding mechanism that's been in place for a long time, and we're trying to maximize the use of it so that we have less painful cuts for those that are dependent upon the programs in the Agency of Human Services. So just let me finish with them, and I'll turn to Doug here and say to what I missed. So we're increasing the provider assessments. 2, we are creating a new assessment on managed care organizations, and Doug can explain that in more detail. But it's the same basic concept, only a little bit more complicated. We are expanding the assessment mechanism, the provider assessment, to dentists, and that achieves $6 million for the savings. So there's a lot of heavy lifting being asked by the provider community, and I guess what we're saying is, look, we're all in the same boat together. Unless we get control of these healthcare costs, we're going to be cannibalizing each other year after year. So join the effort.